Hey everybody, it's Kim with Lolly Doodle Studios. It is our first YouTube live, so come on in. We are going to paint a fall themed mushroom cluster and banner here in a nice soft watercolor style. We do watercolor Wednesdays over on my Facebook page, and we have decided to go ahead and move watercolor Wednesdays over here to our YouTube family for this week and maybe next week. We are also streaming live on the Facebook page, so stop in and say hi. I know you might not be able to see this extremely clearly right now, and I am hoping that the picture quality is not as fuzzy as it looks on my end. But you'll see here that I have painted, I have drawn out and sketched 3 little mushrooms with like a ribbon banner next to it. And we are going to paint that in a nice soft watercolor style. If you catch me live, please just say hi. Let me know you're here. It is my first time painting live on YouTube. I'm really excited about that. And I hope that you will come back and join me every Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Time. So I am an acrylic artist, a watercolor artist, and a hand letterer, brush letterer. I really love to paint with a paintbrush. I love to do my lettering with a paintbrush. But anyway, I'm using my professional palette that I have. It's just a bunch of different pro colors. It's actually a mix of pro and student grade colors. But I always urge everyone to use what they have available for themselves. I also do enjoy using my koi set if that is what you have. Um, and just so you know where I'm going with this, I am hoping to do this. Hey, Cindy White. Hi, sweetheart. Thank you for joining me. Thank you for joining me. So for this week, again, we are live both places, both on the Facebook channel and here on YouTube. Um, we will be switching over to the YouTube channel. So anyway, let me know if you guys would like a tracer for this. I'm hoping that you can see it. It looks a little fuzzy on my end, and I promise I will not just keep, I don't know why that looks. Cindy, if you're watching, let me know. Does this look really fuzzy on your end? My hand doesn't look fuzzy. Maybe it's just the paper. We are going to go ahead and get started. Um, so I have my watercolor palette, and I want to urge you guys to use whatever it is that you may have. Even if you do not have a watercolor set, use your markers, use your acrylic paint. You can do this any way you want. But I started out this year in January determined to learn, at least to my ability, not fuzzy, but it is hard to see the lines. Well, hopefully when we get painting, it won't be as hard. And if I have to drop the camera closer, I'll do that as well. So I am going to use a Cotman size 4 watercolor brush. I have, let me see if I can drop it down a little bit closer and see if that helps. I'm sorry, everything always seems to go a little crazy, like right before live time. So I apologize for that. You know, we are a hot mess. You know what? Show here. We don't hide it. It just is what it is. So I'm going to start working with each of these 3 mushrooms. So I'm just going to take some fresh water on a brush. And I think I'll start with the furthest one out and work my way over. So I love to work wet on wet. And I also have watercolor paper here. I am using my Canson 140-pound paper tonight. And we're just going to fill in this upper part of the mushroom. It's kind of just like drawing a circle. So I'm going to wet the paper there. None of these mushrooms are touching, so I'm just going to go ahead and wet all three of them. I'm just going to wet the upper portion of the mushroom. These are going to be like fall themed, hopefully a little bit whimsical, but I'm just going to fill in the caps of the mushrooms with some water. And then we get to decide our banner color. And I always urge you guys to use whatever colors that make you happy. So I'll just pull my watercolor over here real quick. For this first mushroom, we're going to play with color, complementary colors. So they're opposite colors on the color wheel. Don't technically usually think of using them together, but I want to show you this little trick. So my paper is wet already. It's just damp. I'm going to make this a yellow mushroom, but I am going to come over here and just grab a little bit of this purple color that I have. So any purple color that you may have, use that. And I'm going to make my shadows all towards the left of the way I'm working. So I'm going to drop in some of this purple just off to the side and just right around the bottom here, right around where the mushroom cap is. And I'm just going to leave that be for a few minutes. And I'm going to show you what that, because I said we're going to make this mushroom purple. So you may be wondering why. I mean, we're going to make it yellow. So why? That is a little bit fuzzy, guys. I am so sorry. We will work on the video quality here. I don't know what is going on with my internet. All right, so we're going to let that purple just kind of work itself in a little bit and leave that alone. So I think I'm going to do this top one with some hints of green. So I have a green here, which is sap green. You can use whatever green you have. And remember, if you want to tone it down, the sap green is a very sort of olivey looking green. And if you need to use a brighter green and tone it down, you can do that by adding a little bit of brown, or you can actually add a touch of red to your paint. So I've got the sap green here, and I want it to be heavier on this left side of the piece for my shadow. So I'm going to drop that in, and I am going to work it just all the way through to the other side, but I'm going to pull everything back over here to the left side. So this is the side that I want darker for my shadow. So you see how I'm just using the brush to direct that color back over. Now, what I want to do with this is create little fall tags or table settings for the holidays coming up. They will be here before we know it, but you guys could use these for anything. So I'm just dropping a little bit more of that color here to the left of the mushroom. I'm just kind of tapping it on. I'm going to leave that be and let it work its way across. So we'll move down here to this little tinier baby mushroom. It's yet another like oval shape with another little oval here inside of that one. But if you want a tracer for this project, just let me know in the comments and I can work on getting you a tracer. So this one, like I said, I don't want this really bright. I want to work with colors of the fall. So I'm going to grab a little bit of this yellow ochre, which is just like a muted yellow. It has some brown to it. I'm going to use that. I'm going to add a tiny bit of fresh water. because I don't want it very dark. We're going to work light to dark. I'm going to do the same thing here with this one. I'm going to start, let's see if it's dark. It's kind of dark, but I'm going to pull most of that color over to the left side of this little short squatty mushroom. And I'll try to keep most of the color to the left. Now, if you get too much color there, I'm tempted to do this, so we're just going to go ahead and do it. I have a little paper towel here. I'm going to dry my brush off. With this dry brush, we're going to use it as a mop. So we're going to come in here on the right side, drop that brush and wiggle it and pull it across. And you'll see where it's pulled some of that color off. So it's leaving most of that darker color over here to the side. And you just have to experiment with the amount of water and paint on your brush. So I'm just dropping more of that color there to the right, and I'm going to leave it be, and it will spread itself around. I'm going to hit the bottom of the mushroom stem basically the same way, but I'm not connecting the stem up here to the cap. So I'm just going to drop some of that color here and let it do its thing. It will work its way up and across the paper. Clean my brush. We're going to darken this one again with some brown, but I'm just putting in that yellow ochre first. Now my purple here is almost dry, but I should have done the stem to this mushroom the same way when I first went in. So I'm just going to drop a little bit of purple on that stem. I'm going to get up and see that little, almost like the rainbow shape, that little curve. And I'm going to pull that purple down the left side of that mushroom. And I'll clean my brush again. I'm going to go in with a brighter yellow now because we can always tone it down a little bit. So I'll grab some of this brighter lemon yellow, and I think I am going to use some of the yellow ochre that we used for that one. Okay, a little bit more water. And then watch what happens, right? So I'm going to start over here on the left, and I'm going to fill that mushroom in with this yellow. And I'm going to bring it right across, right over top of the purple. I'm just going to tap it a little bit. I want to bring some of that where the purple is mixing with the yellow, what's on my brush. I'm going to tap just a little bit across the mushroom. You can use the brush and just kind of blend it a little bit better. But it mutes down the purple and gives me, it's still blurry, guys. I am so sorry. Maybe if I stop waving my hands, it'll focus. Not perfect, but you can see it. It's going to soften into the yellow and give me like a nice shadow there. So I'm just going to come down below again, and I'm going to do the same thing down here on this part of the mushroom stem. The yellow will mix with that purple, and remember they're complementary colors, so they're opposite, and they will mute each other out and create like a brownish shade without it being straight up brown. So I'm cleaning my brush again now. We'll come back over here to the green mushroom, and I am simply going to wet the stem, right? So that's just a little kind of trick using complementary colors. And I'm going to grab some of that green. I'm going to dab it at the top And I'm going to dab it at the bottom. I can work it a little bit through the stem. So I just want it to be soft, but I don't want it to be all one color, right? I'm using the same color, and then I'll dab a little bit of that darker olive green up under here for the shadow. And maybe I'll just drop a little bit more off the edge and at the bottom. Let me straighten that up so it's not a messy looking line. And then I'm going to leave it be because that will blend itself in. I just want to make sure this has enough water to blend. So we're just creating subtle shadow with the same color, just a little bit darker. I can come up here again. I want to add a lot of water, but just enough. And then I can come in here and add that same color a little bit darker, a little bit more concentrated, I should say. And we can soften that a bit. But we want some of that mottled look. We don't, the mushrooms, we just want them to kind of be soft and fall-like. I'll come over here again. I think I will use a little bit of this yellow ochre with the lemon yellow. And I'm going to go over the purple again. I'm just dabbing some of that deeper yellow onto the mushroom and letting it bloom out. I'll do the same here at the stem, just to deepen the shadow, right? I wish it were clearer. We'll be working on getting some new video equipment in the next couple of months. So hopefully our videos will be a little bit clearer than they seem to be tonight. So how is everyone? I am so excited to be doing my first my first YouTube live. We're going to come to the little guy again. And I am going to use some of my deeper brown color. So I'm just going to grab that off screen. I know you're not able to see what I'm doing, but this is just like a dark green, a dark brown. And I'm going to lay that brown on this mushroom on the same, everything to the left. I want my shadows to the left, darker up under the mushroom, down a little bit at the bottom and up the side. And we can deepen that as much as we need to. I have a tiny little hint of black on my brush. I'm going to drop just a little bit of that into the brown. Okay. Now, because this yellow ochre's already dried, I'm going to come back with a clean brush with just fresh, clean water. And I'm going to come from the right over to the left. And as soon as I start hitting that deeper color, I'm going to lift up with the brush because I want that color to start spreading. Right, so we've created a nice deep brown there on that side of it. We could add just a few drops with the tip of the brush of that deeper color. We'll just give the mushroom a little bit of interest, right? We're not going for cutesy, but just soft watercolor, fall colors. And now we're going to leave them be to dry. Now I'm going to brighten this up a bit with a nice purpley, reddish maroon color for the banner. So it's going to be this really pretty, I'm just mixing purples in this well here. I'm getting lots of water. I want lots of water. This is a little bit of my purple, a little bit of like a maroon color, and I'm just mixing those together. And again, feel free to use whatever watercolor set you may have. Use your markers. We have been exploring on my Facebook page the use of, I have a free hand lettering group over there, and we have been exploring using our water-based hand brush lettering markers as watercolor this week. So if you're interested in that and you're not in the Facebook group, just let me know. We can always make more videos. So I'm going to pull the paper over. I'm going to let that dry. We'll come back to those. But I am just, this is a very light wash of that color that I just mixed up. And I'm just going to fill in. It's not quite as light as I wanted it to be, but I can come back with some more water. There's a little hair. Let me get that. So I hope everybody is good tonight. Feels like fall here today. Our temperatures dropped into the 70s. Now, mind you, it's August. I don't like to say that too loudly because I know so many of you in our country are dealing with that really nasty heat wave. But it feels very strange here in PA because it's very fall-like. Oh, I don't know why it is so fuzzy. All right, so I'm going to just continue and do the same thing. I just want to make sure my mushrooms are dry before I go over there. But I'm just using water and a little bit of that color that we mixed. You see it's very, very light. And I'm just washing that color right across the ribbon. Just very loose. I'm leaving some white of the paper show through. They are not dry yet, so we won't go all the way over yet. We'll just work with this portion of the ribbon first. So let me get that centered in here for you. Listen, maybe if I turn off my iPad, I don't know. I'll just use what I see on the screen here. All right, so this is wet. I don't want it extremely soaking wet, but a nice little wash of that color can come on this larger portion of the ribbon, right at the edges, and drop some of that deeper color. So not as much water in it, and I'm just going to fill that ribbon in. I'm just going to make some nice big bold. I want to leave this edge a little bit light so we can avoid that edge altogether. If need be, I can get some more color as I need it. And I'm just going to drop just little lines with the brush right across the ribbon. And you can see how it's just giving us this really nice, pretty, variegated look. Oh, I don't know where those little hairs are coming from. Let's see if I can get that out. Okay. So I have to watch my time. For those of you who are watching on Facebook, I will be going live after this at 8 o'clock Eastern Time on Teresa's Spot. I hope I'm saying this right. Teresa's Silhouette Spot for all things art. So I will be over there sharing another tutorial. So I'm not filling in the whole thing. The ribbon itself is still wet. I'm just dragging some lines, and I'm just using a little bit more color each time I do want it a little bit deeper down the side of that mushroom, and I will just pull it back out through the ribbon. And I'm going to leave that be, right? See how it's getting darker with each layer. Now I'm going to come here, and where there would be a fold in the ribbon, I want that to be my darkest area for this portion of the ribbon. Right? There would be folds under here. So we're going to just use some water and let that feather its way out. Just wiggling back and forth very loosely. And with each brush stroke over here to the side, I'm adding in just a swipe more of each of the colors. And I'm just going to drop that right down the edge of the ribbon. So I'm using more of that really bright, vibrant red, burgundy, and the purple. And you'll see if you watch it, it will just start to bleed. We can add some more water and help it a little bit, but we just want some of that color to bleed across. We can push it back with our paintbrush. If we get too much blooming out, just push it back, right? And then I will show you next Wednesday what I plan to do with this, or before next Wednesday, I'll come back. So this will be turned into some digital art. So if you guys are into learning about digital art and what you can use it just the way it is, and maybe put someone's name on there or a nice fall phrase. Now I'm going to come over here and I am going to drop some of that deeper color. But yeah, I will post another video showing you my plans for this to use as like table place cards for fall, gift tags, things like that. So I'm putting some of that darker color down and I'm pulling it out into the ribbon a bit. But I'm going to soften that now again with some more water. I love to use the water. We want it to be nice and soft, but I am trying to deepen the color right behind the mushroom, right? Because there would be a shadow there. And I'm going to pull just some of that brighter color along the top edge and along the bottom edge. We can always come in with water and soften it if we don't like the harsh edge of that line, right? So we can see how that color is just starting to pull itself out. I just really want some more of that deep, pretty magenta red in there. We can darken it in the corners. See, I'm just dropping little taps of the color, and then I'll soften it with some water. But yeah, I'll come back with a video and show you how to digitize the piece and how you could use it in many, many ways other than just this single piece of art, right? So adding more water, just, I don't know, it's not going exactly as planned, but that's art, right? Sometimes the best mistakes come from things not going exactly as planned. So these are still wet. I'm going to hit this really, really quickly with the dryer, and I'll be right back. right, we should be good to go. Sorry about that, guys. We should be good to go. I'm just going to flip my paper upside down. I'm a lefty, so it's easier for me to work from right to left. So we're going to continue the ribbon here on this side. And I am just going to go on this side of the mushroom with that deeper color, just like we did on the other side of it, because we want to create a bit of a shadow there. It will bleed out and across, but it's fine. And we just have to be really careful in these areas around the mushroom. So I've just got a little bit of color on my brush, just like I did on the other side. I'm just putting a little wash there. And carefully in between our little mushrooms, we're just going to fill in that negative space there, which is the ribbon, with our maroon color, right? So these, we're going to create another shadow right here. So I'm going to get some of the more saturated straight up color on my brush with just a little bit of water, and I'm just going to carefully drop that darker color right in there to create that little fold. And we'll get right down here. We can do the whole thing pretty dark because it is behind the mushrooms, right? So we don't want it really, really light. But you can just get in there with that brush and drop color, let it start to bleed. I love this beautiful magenta shade. I'm just going to put some dots and drag that out. You can soften it back up again with water. Just creating depth. And when it's completely dry, we can go in with a really nice fine liner brush and really straighten up these edges if you can't get them really straight at this point. Okay, I'm going to come back around now. I want to darken this area right next to the mushroom. More concentrated color. We can straighten up both sides. And let's see, just a tiny bit of water. I'm just going to carefully soften that edge just a tiny bit. Okay, a little bit of water over here. It's drying. I can soften that a little bit too. Right, so those colors will soften. Now we need the fold inside the fold of our ribbon. And I want to do that. I'm actually going to do that as if it were like a double-sided ribbon. So we want the back to be of a, we're going to go in with the straight up purple color that I have. And, oh, it's not being nice tonight, guys. I'm going to get some of that purple. And I'm going to fill in that fold of the ribbon on both sides. You see there. Okay. So I'm going to fill that in. It's that really pretty purple that we did use it for our ribbon. I'm not loving this right here. It's a little bit wonky. So let's fix that edge just a bit. And the colors, we can just keep going in with the darker shade of the watercolor to create a really deep shadow there. And what I like about this mushroom is that it has the shadow. It has the shadow that has this hint of the purple. So it's carrying the theme of the color. If that's not the correct word, it's carrying that same color scheme through. So I'm just going to deepen that back end of the ribbon, and I can wet that a little bit and pull that back out. I don't want the harsh lines, right? So I'm just tapping and pulling. Watercolor is just, for me, so relaxing. That just don't get too lost and too worried about details and just have fun. I'm going to straighten my edges a little bit, pull some tails out of my ribbon on both sides. I'm just going to pull that to a little point. Right? So, I mean, it's looking pretty. We can continue to build color on this ribbon, the darker that we may want it. So I could just wet this again. We can keep building the color. So let's see what would happen if we came in over top of this with a little bit of lemon yellow, right? Because we are going for fall vibes. I don't want like bright pink. So let's see, when we put that yellow on top of our purpley pink ribbon, it's going to tone it down even more and create almost like a rust color. So I'm just going to pull that through a little bit of the ribbon. I can add some of that yellow down here. You see where it just slightly changes the color, just slightly. Just add some more water. Okay, and we'll leave that be now. I like it that way. You may not, and that's fine. You just have to kind of play with it. You can go in, here, how about we switch? Let's use just a big old flat brush. We'll load it up with some water, and I am going to grab just some of this straight up burgundy bright red. And I'm going to start from this end and pull it right on across. So I want it a soft watercolor, but I also want this beautiful color. When I think of fall, I think of all these beautiful, beautiful colors, right? So we've used some different colors in this, and I love the way it's looking so far. I hope that you guys like it as well, right? So we'll come back over now to our little mushrooms. Let's see if we can zoom down just a little bit more, right? So underneath the sides of the mushroom, I'm going to go in with a mix of orange. So I've got a little bit of orange, and I'm going to tone it down. I'll show you. I'm using some of my orange, and I'm going to tone it down with like a yellow ochre color. So I'm just going to mix that here. So it's like, it's more of that rusty brown orange color. So for underneath of the mushroom, I'm going to use the brush almost flat. So when I come in here under the mushroom, I'm going to use the brush flat, and I'm going to tap it. I'm going to tap it and tap it. So I'm just trying to create those little ridges, right? And I'll just go ahead and do that for all of them while I'm here doing it. And then I'm kind of come in with some fresh water on the brush and pull in to those little taps that I've put on. And I'm not going to color in the whole underside of the mushroom, but I'm pulling the brush back now towards the center. And you'll see where it's creating that little starburst of the ridges underneath of a mushroom. I can deepen just the center around that up a little bit with some brown, or, a little bit of more green. And I just drop that in, and that will make its way up through those ridges. I'm going to do the same on these two, but just with the tip of my brush, I'm going to start right out at the underneath of the mushroom cap and just pull back and touch into that color. So it will start pulling it back up, but the darkest part of the color will stay at the stem of the mushroom. You can also, let's come in and darken this one up. We're going to use a little bit of aqua. And I'm just going to add a little bit of a shadow here in this mushroom with an aqua. So that's just a little bit of green and blue. I'll pull that down the stem. I want to leave most of that color off to that left side. Now with a dry brush, I can kind of sweep back into that like we did the first time and pull some of that color across. Now for this one, I think we'll come in and I'm just going to drop some random little, my water is just dirty. I'm just dropping some random dots on the top of this mushroom cap, varying sizes. And I'm going to drop into my bright red, and I'm just going to tap that bright red into the dots of color that I put on the mushroom. Make sure you get some going right out to the edge, right? You can make some of them really big, leave some of them really small, and just make them random, right? So there's the little dots on the mushroom. These are the colors I think of when I think of the fall season. So let's see. Just come in with a little bit more red in certain areas here. Now, because there's green under it, it may fade a little bit to a green. But all in all, there's our little fall mushrooms. And I will be back with another video. I'll let you guys know when I get it posted, because I want to then digitize this and then show you how I would take this from a watercolor piece and take it over and use it for many, many different things. I also like to do this. This is optional. I'm just taking a very saturated brush with a color that I've been using, and I'll tap right onto the paper and make some watercolor splashes. How much you do is up to you. Whether you do it at all, that is up to you as well. We can, so they're not floating in midair, we can come right underneath of our mushroom and just add a little line of water. And we can use just a hint of a color. I'm going to use a little bit of that green mixed with the ochre. And I'm just going to create a little shadow of ground underneath of the mushrooms. Right, guys, let me know if you like this, what you would like to see next. I am really excited to get started with more videos here on YouTube. I love you, Facebook friends, too. You know that. We have our free group for beginner brush lettering where we will do one free project every month. And I will share videos to the page, as we go. But thank you for catching me live tonight, guys. I love you all. Go out and enjoy art. Stop worrying about whether it's going to look like mine or someone else's, and just enjoy yourself. Enjoy the color. Just watch the colors blend and flow. There is peace in art, and I just want you to go find that. All right, guys, I love you. Now, if you're going to come, I'm going to get ready to go live on Teresa's Silhouette Spot for all things art on Facebook. So I will see you soon. If you're going to come join me there, we're going to paint with acrylics and we're going to hand letter. I will see you guys. Bye.